Soup, soup, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Neverdaily podcast, episode 340. Statistically, one of only 5 podcasts ever.
Yep, that's it.
It's a crazy statistic.
We did it.
We're just out here alone in the wilderness trying to see what's really funny. I might have told this story before, but I did a keynote speech at a social media conference in 2005. And I had a business partner who was totally a huge fan of podcasting and blogging at the time. And like, none of us cared. I didn't even care. And it was my marketing agency, right? I was I don't care.
I was a junior in high school. I didn't care about anything but girls and concerts.
Yeah. So we had this conference, social media conference. We packed the room, actually. It was in Idaho, but we packed the room with like 600 plus people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking the audience to raise their hand if those people that had an iPod, because the iPhone wasn't out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody have an iPod? And like freaking not even a third of the room raised their hands. And then we proceeded to share a bunch of slides on the innovation of podcasting and what it could be and all this stuff. And then it wasn't until 2018, so 14 years later, that I ended up actually doing a podcast. I was talking about it and extolling the virtues of podcasting for my clients and everything, and had yet to even do my own. It's crazy.
If they just would have listened to you, they would be my favorite murder right now.
They would. If I had listened to me. That's like that's the funny thing. It's the funny thing about like marketing agencies and all that is it's that old trope, the barber's kid's hair's the shaggiest.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you're implementing things that you are only you're only practiced in doing because you're doing it for other people. You're not doing it for yourself. Like, we'd always have websites that were like woefully behind on our own SEO and all kinds of things. And yet we're like, charging clients exorbitant fees for SEO. It was weird. It's a weird time. So now I'm catching up. I'm catching up to my own recommendations. And now podcasting is so noisy. It's crazy.
Well, there's even a word for like what's going on right now. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically where the big boys get into it and they ruin it for everyone else. And like, you give a microphone to a celebrity, they don't even have to write anything, they don't have to post anything, edit. They just literally show up and go meh, 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 and then they have like 2 million listeners, or they'll run like $1 million campaign to to artificially boost them into the top 5 podcasts for the month or whatever.
There was a gal who's been on the Sean Ryan show. He's like a OG, like military, special ops guy and all this. And he had this one gal who was part of the CIA. He's had her on 4 times on the show. She's a wealth of knowledge. Like, it's wild listening to her talk. When you see her, you're like, oh, you probably are what you're probably like a member of a PTA somewhere, completely unsuspecting, unassuming, woman. And I say that just it's important because I'm like, oh, yeah, I forget sometimes that's probably how the CIA likes it, right?
Yeah, the whole gray man theory or whatever.
Yeah. She is the grayest woman ever.
Yeah.
And been on the show 4 times. This morning I saw a post from him where he's like, congratulations to her. She's got her own podcast now. And he's like the fastest record for gaining 100,000 subscribers.
Ooh.
That's not even listeners. That's subscribers. And she was like holding one of those YouTube silver plaques, like her show's done that. I'm like, yes, it's true. I mean, it's like everything else. It's who you know. It's the connections you have. I mean, there is something to be said about being first on the block, but that first on the block's a really lonely place to be. Yeah. I always told my clients, you don't want. I mean, unless you are the literal, the person furthest into the corner, bleeding front edge of your knowledge wheelhouse. Unless you're that guy that there's nobody else further in the corner of it, you're never going to be first. And great. And luckily, because first is where all the mistakes and a bunch of waste happens and everything. Second, third, fourth, those are great places to be. Yeah. When it comes to when it comes to anything, Google wasn't the first. I mean, they were riding off the backs of Lycos and Yahoo and Ask Jeeves and a bunch of other, So now we're like, I sometimes I revel in the memory of getting the emails from Patreon being like, as being a Patreon account in the top 100 on Patreon. Like at one point we were in the top 100 earners on Patreon. How times have changed.
Yeah. A couple well-placed Molotov cocktails can do really good damage.
No, but I've also, this is a random thought that I've been having lately. And I think there's a bit of a takeaway for everyone with this, is easily for the last year. I have removed myself from everything, I am not prolific on social media anymore. I have not been. I have been woefully minimal in my podcasting. And then I sit back and I'm like, why are things so bad? But the takeaway is this. Is that you can become a cipher. You can become a zero by simply removing yourself, because the hard and fast truth is, with the exception of your number one in your life, or your number 2 in your life, and maybe your family, no one is thinking about you unless you give them a reason to. And that reason could be good, bad, or other. I'm not saying that you have to be offering things for people to transact with all the time, but no one is thinking about you. And if you're sitting there worried, especially if you've done nothing to contribute or offer or make a ripple in your pond, whether that's professionally or privately, if you wake up thinking about all the people that are thinking about you, or that hate you, or that love you, or that why, or, you feel either responsible for no one reaching out to you because you're not giving anything for them to consume, like me. Like if your job is consumption based and you're not giving anything, or maybe there's a bit of a victim card where you wake up and you think, I give so much to everyone, but no one asks me how I'm doing. And I give so much. It's very likely that you're not putting any ripples into the pond. It's not, I lived a long period of my life where I overhelped over offered, over surprised on gifts and all that, thinking that I was kind of securing a place in the hearts and minds of not just friends and family and acquaintances, but even strangers. But and it's not even an unfortunate or unhappy truth. The truth is that meaningful memory of people and meaningful opinions and meaningful recall, or even the motivation to be like, I should see how so-and-so is doing, is based on meaningful interaction. I had a business partner one time. I might have mentioned this before. We had a Christmas party. We spent so much money on gifts and everything. And he thought that was going to retain our employees, rather than just having a really meaningful, low key, memorable, just another Christmas party on another year. We're a business. We're not like, we're not these people's family or even close friends, really, probably. We're just a business and we're throwing a party. So we dumped all this money into gifts and everything. By midweek the next week at work, he's starting to hear the rumblings of people who had cashed in on selling the exorbitant gifts that they had received at the party.
Yeah.
And it gutted him. Also, statistically, we lost more employees over the next quarter, over the next 3 months, than we ever lost them. So everything that he thought, and I say he because I was like, we don't need to do this. This isn't going to net us retention. And I really did believe that. But it's true. It's true. So if you're feeling like you are bereft of contact and connection, rule number 1 is put yourself somewhere meaningful. Make meaningful connections. And I have no one to blame but myself for, a dip in numbers, a dip in interactions, anything, because I didn't give anybody a reason to remember me, out there. And there are people, I'm not saying it's a zero. There are people that are like, hey, that even reach out on here and they're like, hey, just letting you know, you've made a great community, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, blah. You made a great community. We're appreciative. You've done some good things. There are people, and there always will be. But the thing I found is that will never make up for your lack of meaningful contribution out there. If anything, you've starved yourself so much of meaningful contribution that when you get an unsolicited contribution of word or thought or deed, it often goes right in the bin. Your need for consuming meaningful is so large that someone giving you a nugget of that on their own volition and everything often goes more unappreciated, which is ironic.
Yeah.
Because we're like, oh, woe is me. And then somebody gives us it and it's like bloop, just like the black hole just sucks it up, because we've lost our base, whatever that base is, whatever meaningful base is, where it's you feel like you're bereft.
Oh, it's just one thing. And then one thing isn't going to fix any, like there's always the people like, oh, that one thing isn't going to really fix anything, right? That one gesture isn't going to really make up for all of the missed opportunities.
Yeah.
But it's like, and also you need like, what you want to receive, you need to be the person who gives that out, right? Because it's like you might be looking for someone to reach out to you because you're like in a downtime, but they also might be in a downtime, right? So it's like if you're not reaching out to other people, like why would you? I don't know. That's just how my brain works. Like why would you expect others to reach out to you? Because they might be going through the same thing you are, hoping that someone reaches out to them.
Yeah.
And
Jimmy
so
Carr.
it's just, yeah.
Jimmy Carr repeated a quote from a thought leader from generations ago. If you feel that someone has ruined your life, you're right. You have.
Yeah.
And I need to remember that a lot. But anyway, here we are. We're on the Neverdaily.
We did it.
Doing what we can do to contribute, to give something out, and try and be pragmatic about our contribution to the world.
Hopefully we're not just giving out depression.
Well, according to DJ Mankey, we are great to listen to whilst driving a VR semi. And that's a pretty big compliment.
Someone's got to deliver those VR goods.
Yeah.
To those VR stores.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the content that fuels that. So we are changing, at least we are supplementing the journey of at least one soul out there. And 6 souls in the back door.
Speaking of VR, have you seen that VR helicopter pilot who flies, like, he's always in his setup barefoot, and it's like some game where he's like transporting soldiers around. It's like a virtual reality game.
Yeah.
And he'll always go, do you want the safe drop or the hot drop? And he'll always ask them, do you want the safe drop or the hot drop? And like sometimes like the hot drop, and he'll just zoom that thing around, and guys are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then he's like, it's all right, guys, I got you, we're good. And he's just like buzzing right around trees and buildings and stuff. And even my favorite part of those videos is even in the VR, when he looks down at his feet, they're barefoot too.
They're barefoot in
the VR.
That's fun.
He like has his like character set up to be barefoot, and that dude can rip those VR helicopters around. Like it's fun to watch.
There is a couple guys that have a social media channel. I don't even know if I follow it. It's come across my feed a couple times, but they have these remote control, just little rock hopper RC trucks, and they've created drivers inside of them, and the drivers are just a little camera for a head, right? But they've built it around VR so that if they turn their head in VR, the camera will look. So it's creepy watching these little like robot heads.
Yeah.
And they've built it to the point where they can VR themselves looking over to their window and then out of the window to look at the ground. And so and they will go out and they'll put their RC cars in disparate locations and then drive toward each other and then like stop next to each other and turn and look out the window and talk to each other. It's weird. It's fun to watch, and I have no idea why I care to watch this happen, but it's a bit adorable.
The initial setup on those is probably pretty pricey, but it's way cheaper than actually going out and rock crawling in a full-size rig that breaks, and I got to replace an axle again. I blew up my motor. I have to buy a new set of $2,000 oversized tires because I ripped them open. And
there's a gathering, and I don't know much about it. Again, this has just come across my feeds a couple times, but there's a group of people called rednecks with paychecks, and it's exactly what you'd think it is. It's souped up, like almost monster truck level, maybe even some are monster truck level. Guys just out mud bogging and stuff, and girls taking their tops off, and just the whole thing. But yeah, the expense that goes into those hobbies.
Two of my favorite, two of the only YouTube channels I watch, all the time are both off-road. They do off-road recovery. And like we're talking about like off-road recovery, and they built their own crawlers and wreckers and giant like freaking 50-inch tires and just massive rigs. And so one's called Matt's Off-Road Recovery. It's really fun. And then the other one's called Fab Rats, and they're both in southern Utah. And like I don't know them personally, but I literally am one step removed. Like I know people who know them really well. And yeah, just some of the stuff they build and some of the places they drive to. Then they have to pull out people's cars. Like it's not just them getting there. They also then their rigs have to be even more capable, because then they have to hook up and pull out someone's dead vehicle that's broken, right? And so yeah, just watching all that and the things they build their own stuff. Like you can't just go buy something that does that. And it's really fun to watch, them just sitting there like, and then things break on their rigs and they have to fix it, and it's just like the drama and the triumph of man.
Tell me how you think this story ends. My ex-brother-in-law was really into soccer. And just about that, soccer and video games. And he got married and suddenly joined a softball team and became really avid in rock hopping. Jeep, with a transmission dialed completely for rock hopping and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit unfair to ask you how you think that ends, because basically he was the Idaho version of your average British guy who who just wanted to maybe become a football star and played it online and played soccer and did some coaching, this and that. Gets married, joins softball leagues and rock hopping clubs. The end of that story is they got a divorce because she's a lesbian. And the funny thing is, I didn't know they got a divorce. And this was like maybe a couple months ago. I'm sitting around sometimes the neighborators will put out a little jet oven, I don't know, fireplace thing in our little cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. And we'll all go and sit outside of it and hang out. And somebody knows him, and they're like, "Oh, have you heard what happened?" And I'm like, "What is his wife a lesbian now?" And they're like, "Oh, so you did hear?" I'm like, "What?" I mean, it was there wasn't any hiding it. Like, she got married and then just like went full force in every direction where you'd be like, it's so weird. But he followed right along, like all of her interests, all of her friends, like, wow, her friends. And I was like, am I the only one that can see this? Am I the only one? And sometimes the generalizations just are a lock. It's true. It's true. There are generalizations for a reason. I mean, and nobody wants to hear that until you're talking about Mormons. So shut up. But I was just like, and I wasn't like campaigning for it, obviously, but I'm just like, yeah, that's a weird pairing. That's a weird pairing right there. He's into rock hopping now? Really? That's weird. But just full 2 feet in, just jumped right in, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember they went to a little town like 80 miles from here to buy a Jeep that was totally just dialed in for rock hopping. Mm-hmm. And he's so new to it, they bought it. And he's like, "Okay, you drive the regular daily driver home. I'll drive this." Gets on the freeway and burns the transmission out within like, I think 10 miles, because it was only meant for like half a mile per hour speed. You know?
That's why you see a lot of those big, huge decked out Jeeps on trailers when they're going down the highway.
Yeah, the cost just keeps adding up. Mm-hmm. The cost just goes. And more power to everybody, and I gotta say, I hope he finds happiness. The reason for the divorce was she found it, which I think is just a sucky thing to do. But
when I was working in Southern Utah, there was so there's like multiple departments where I worked, and there was a dude in another department, and I thought everyone knew he was gay. Apparently everyone but one person knew he was gay. And so the guy comes in and he's like, "I got engaged." And everyone's like, congratulations. And then we're just sitting in our department and someone was like, "Hey, so-and-so, did you hear that, blah, blah, blah got engaged?" And he's like, "What, to a dude?" And everyone's just like, yes, he's gay. And like the look on their face was like, "What? How did anyone find out?" And it's just like, he's obviously gay. Like, he doesn't hide it at all. And he's like, "But he drives a big lifted truck." I'm like, that doesn't, gay people are allowed to drive whatever vehicle they want. It's not like that. Being gay doesn't mean you have to drive a certain vehicle or not drive a vehicle. He's like, but he wears camo and goes hunting. I'm like, okay. But like, just a look of shock on he thought he was making the funniest joke in the world. And everyone's just like, yeah, how did you not know?
No, they can blend in, believe it or not.
Yeah.
No, I think we're past a lot of things. And I'm glad for it. I hope we're settling back into a time where no one has new, fresh triggers that are so powerful that they can, crush someone else's freedoms.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, I think I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it. I'm glad to say it. I think we're settling back into a time similar to the late 80s and 90s where gay people were just gay out in public, and some were fantabulous, and some they blended in and it was fine, and not everybody had to preface their sexual preferences in a conversation or an introduction.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great time. That, for those that weren't around in the late 80s and the 90s, no one had to title themselves with who they liked to have sex with. It
Yeah.
was not a thing. Some people did, and they did it very ostentatiously, and that's fine. I mean, especially, however you want to be identified and however you want to, present yourself to the public. But I'm kind of glad we're getting back there where even people that I know that are very outwardly gay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've been worn out for a long time on one of the most protected classes has this ability to say that they're one of the biggest victims. And I've never bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Never did. Everyone is scared of you.
Yeah.
Everyone has been forever scared to say anything about you. And we all zeroed out the ability for any of us to say anything critical or include you in a conversation any kind of the labels are free to be used by them, but not by us. And no one knows what to do with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never bought it. I was like, no, that there's never been a safer class of people, that there's a lot of myth, and I'm glad we're dispelling a lot of it. You can't do it all with statistics. You can't do it all with research, because it's like Mark Twain says, there's lies, damn lies, and then statistics. So everybody uses them to their favor. But I'm just glad the human population, that's not, what we read in a headline or an article. Like, we're all maybe finding a little bit of center ground again.
Well, it's just like this weekend I learned about. Do you know what a euphemism treadmill is? Have you heard of that?
A euphemism treadmill?
Treadmill, yeah.
No.
So basically, what it is because a lot of people are getting mad that the R word is coming back into being used normally again. Just like for whatever reason. So if you actually look into it, started out with the word idiot way back in the day. That was the literally medical term, right? Like that's what a doctor. Right. It was just a shortcut. You don't have to say, "Here's all their problems." It was just a shortcut and say, "Oh, they're diagnosed as an idiot. Like they have mental, like they're not, as advanced as they should be comparatively, right?"
Right.
And so then that word started to become, people would call each other idiots, and then people would get offended by it, right? Even though it's a medical term. So they replaced it. The new medical term was imbecile because it sounded better, right? Idiot was wrong. You're not allowed to say the I word. Then that became, you're not allowed to call someone an imbecile, even though it's a medical diagnosis. So then the new word was moron, right? That was a literal, like that's a medical definition. They're like trying to change it to keep ahead of the politically correct police. It's the doctors are like, this is the word we use. Like this is an official diagnosis. Then the next word was retarded. Like, because what is that in music? It's slower, right? It just means you're developing slower. That's all the word means. And then everyone's like, you can't say that word. So then it became mentally disabled. Now you're not allowed to say. Then you weren't allowed to say that. Then it's intellectual disability, right?
Or neurodivergent.
Or neurodivergent. And so it's like, And every single word before that was the official medical definition that doctors would use to describe someone's mental capabilities. Like, it wasn't an insult. It was literally
we've done that for thousands of years. Yeah. As long as we've had English, the term that is applied to the lowest of us, when intellectually, has always been used as a slight as well. It's not new. It's not fresh. Comedians are trying to grab it back. I think they're, they're like, no.
But that's the thing is, people are like, but like, it's part of moving, we're evolving, but it's like, it's the thought behind it. If the same thing keeps happening, it's not the words, it's the idea behind the words, right? Like, you can change it. So then intellectual disability is going to be offensive eventually. And like, no matter what you say, someone's going to be offended by it. And so it's not the word, it's the taking of the offense.
We are on the cusp of a whole bunch of brand new titles and descriptions, because there are a bunch of mental illnesses that have not received by the psychological community the amount of rigor that they should have had, because everyone's scared of labeling it, of distributing information, of it being embraceable. But we're getting to a point where we will now be identifying a whole bunch more, and we always will. AI is not just this tool that can help you find a restaurant or schedule a trip. They're sicking it on illness and physics and all these things, and it will derive its own descriptions of things that we will be like, okay, well, this has been discovered. This is wild that this happened. And all the Epstein stuff comes out, right? All the Epstein stuff, millions of pages, and we give a crap. Fun fact, and on share, there's a guy named Matty McTek, and he's the guy, you've probably seen his videos. He's the guy that's like, powerful websites you should know, volume 324.
Oh, yeah.
And then he shows you a website that you should know, right? He did this thing on the Epstein files, and he's like, I can't remember the exact term, but if you look up Matty McTek, Matty McTek, and you look up his videos, he just did one the other day. He was like, found something interesting in the Epstein files. If you put in this phrase, and the phrase was like image not provided, I think is what it was. Something like image not provided. If you do a search in the Epstein files, which the DOJ has provided a whole search engine, you can search the entire Epstein all the files. He says, if you do a search for this phrase, image not provided, I believe that's it. It pulls up are results of PDFs, where if you click on the PDF, it just is a one-page PDF that says image not provided. He's like, but if you change the file extension on the URL from .pdf to .mp4, they're videos. And he's like, for example, this one's a 1-hour video of a jail CCTV camera with a whiteboard strategically placed blocking some part of the scene. And he, like, that right there he's giving you an enormous rabbit hole, but he's not the guy to dig down into it. So he's like, so do what you will with that information. And he just is like, bye, and he's out. He's out just like that. Okay. So what I was going to say is, so the Epstein files get released, millions of pages. We all give a crap, like, whatever, we're run by a bunch of powerful people who are either pals or participants in pedophilia, or they're one of the ones crying in the wilderness, just voting no on everything, like Thomas Massey. which I guess you got to have one. You got to have a Thomas Massey. I used to be like, I really like that guy. And then I was like, what's the point, dude?
Yeah.
What's the point of being in there if all you're going to do is vote no on everything? You're the only guy voting no. You're not helping your constituents at all. Like at that point, I'm like, if you're going to be a politician, do politician stuff. You're an evangelist is what you are. You're not a politician. I don't know. He'll probably get primaried. Anyway, all the Epstein stuff comes out. Take a guess on how many announcements of cures for cancer that were announced parallel or just after the release of all the Epstein files. Take a guess. How many cures for cancer were announced?
8.
You're Googling it.
No.
I can tell. I can watch your eyes. I know what you're doing.
8.
10.
I was close.
10. 10 cures for cancer were announced in parallel with or just after the announcement of the Epstein files. Does anybody care? We've literally been racing for the cure. We've dumped trillions into cancer research. 10 various cancers. Their cures were announced. And I care more about what Matty McTek says about how to convert a PDF to a video.
Yeah.
What is happening? Oh, man. How about I share a couple things from This Is True?
Please.
Cool the jets down over here.
That's right. I brought some tear jerkers, so I'll bring it home.
Okay, good. All right, here's a couple things from our friends over at This Is True. Face the music. Volusia County. Volusia? I don't remember. Every time I say it, somebody's will be in the comments to be like, you got it wrong. I think it's Volusia.
Because that's one of the counties that they are in on Patrol Live, so they say it. I hear it all the time.
Okay, Volusia County, Florida, Sheriff's Office detectives wanted to interview a man regarding an ongoing commercial mortgage fraud case, but when they arrived at his Daytona Beach home, they were confronted with a doormat that demanded, quote, come back with the warrant. What did they do? Quote, we came back with the warrant, said Sheriff Mike Chitwood. Christopher Music, age 57, was arrested, charged with conducting an organized scheme to defraud, grand theft over $100,000, and forgery. Music, who has 10 prior felony convictions, was also wanted in Maryland on 2 outstanding warrants. Cops crush cocky con man. Fun fact, this is wild. The other day, as my wife and I are wont to do, it's become a routine at night, partially because we've had family, friends who they make debut appearances in the arrest reports. So, and bless their hearts, I got to say, my in-laws, they are quiet, aw shucks, don't start drama kind of people, to the point where they're not reluctant to share information on the whereabouts and the news that's happening. They just don't. They're like, it'll come up like you'll be leaving the house after like a 4-hour thing, and they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, so-and-so's back in prison. You're like, what? I think I might have mentioned this, but my father-in-law asked my wife to drive him to a doctor appointment, and they're mid-drive, and she's like, so what is this doctor appointment for? He's like, oh, they found prostate cancer. She's then just a mess, like she's crying, and she's like, oh, okay, and like, it just they don't want to stir the turds ever.
Yeah. That's actually how I found out my dad had 2 extra siblings I didn't know about. And I found that out about a year ago when he was just like, oh yeah, my sister did this. And I was like, I know your sisters. Like, it's either Aunt Brenda or Aunt Edith. And he's like, oh no, my other sister. And I was like, what? I was like, are you joking? He's like, no. He's like, I have another sister and another brother, like half siblings. And I was like, I'm like 37 years old and you're just telling me this? And I'm just like,
I've heard stories about yours and your wife's dads, sometimes I feel like they withhold information like as a control mechanism. Would that be fair to say?
Not my dad.
Not
Her
your dad?
yes. My dad is just like, he's just like
He just like forgot to tell you?
Yeah, it's just like one of those things where it's just like, oh, I thought you already, like, my dad's the kind of, he's like, I thought you already knew. And I'm just like, what? No, I've never heard about. So then I spent the next like week trying to find his sister on Facebook, and I think I did, and I messaged her saying like, hey, but she never responded to me.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I think you're my dad's sister. Like, he actually like would like to like talk to you if you want to. If not, cool, ignore this. And she ignored it. So
yeah, you can only go so far down those rabbit holes, right?
Yeah.
I got to be careful anymore because my father-in-law, I love the man so much. He doesn't say a lot. You know, he says very little. But when I go out and help him do something, like if we're in the field or digging a hole or driving to, neuter cows or whatever, he talks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be careful though now because like I've gotten in trouble a couple times because I'll come back and be like, yeah, your dad was talking about this. She's like, what? And early on when we first got married, I was getting information that I had no idea nobody knew. Like he'd been married before, which wasn't like a real solid understanding topic in the family. Or that the wife, his first wife had a couple kids that were like a huge part of his life at that time. And then when they got a divorce, it was this huge hole in his life. And like, nobody knew it. And so I'm like blabbing. I'm like, oh man, yeah, your dad, he doesn't talk a lot. Real big hole in his heart about this thing. She's like, what? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Same exact, like, that's how, like, my dad also told me once that my grandma had been married another time that I had no idea about too. He's just like, oh yeah, it was her first marriage. It was just a high school sweetheart thing, and no big deal. They're only married for like a year. And I'm just like,
yeah,
why?
yeah.
Like it just, in his mind, it's just like, it's not pertinent to anything, so he doesn't say it. Like, and it's not because he's withholding it. It's just like, his brain is extremely logical, so it's like, well, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking like about right now, so why would I ever bring it up ever unless we're literally talking about stuff like that?
Yeah. And hey, I gotta say, I want to be more like that. I'm not quite sure it's great for a podcast, to be that way, but like in life, I'd love to be more like that, where my brain goes, that's not important to share right now. Nah, you don't need to share that bit. Keep this one low. Maybe don't say anything. Yeah. I admire that. I envy that. I do. I really do. But all of that leading to this. So I just read that thing about the con man, right? So we when we lived over on our horse property, you had to kind of import friends for the day because we're not in a neighborhood. So our kids, somebody will call and be like, hey, can so-and-so come over? And we had these friends, their daughter would come over and play, and it's a farm, we were living with horses and stuff. So, they were out getting dirty and all kinds of stuff. Their daughter broke her collarbone at our house, all the fun stuff, all the things.
All the normal things.
Yeah, but we knew them pretty well, and they trusted us to have their kid, even though your kid broke a bone at our house, they trusted us and everything. Or looking at the arrest reports the other day, and I was like, what the heck? And then I read this article. 2 defendants made their initial appearance before a U.S. magistrate judge last week after a federal grand jury in Boise, Idaho, returned an indictment charging 5 individuals with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and related charges for submitting false tax returns and fictitious financial instruments to the IRS. The following... This is crazy. Okay, little backstory. Whenever I'd talk to them, I'd be like, so how's the sales business? He was like a salesman, but not like for anything big. And I wasn't like making big money. I always noticed like he'd wear a watch that was, I think, a little bit outside of like you're paying it off still. Maybe took out a loan for it kind of watch, I'm not a huge watch guy, so I don't know. Their cars at the time when they were hanging out, when their kid was hanging out at our house, maybe outside of the realm of where this guy was a sales guy for and everything. But I know people leverage, they overextend themselves on, especially vehicles. A lot of people do. Just go sit on a road and watch how many newish cars drive down the road. There's a loan on every one of those. Anyway, so I'd be like, so how's the sales going? Oh, it's hard, wife, I know I need to be out there more. And, getting fired from that job was hard, and picking up this new one, I'm just trying to learn. I'm learning the ropes and everything. So that's my understanding of their situation.
Yeah.
And then I read this. The following is according to the indictment from 2023 to 2024. This is a year. Andrea and Kent Shannon of Kuna, Idaho, as well as Brittany Plame of Frankfort, Illinois, Monica Skinger of Chicago, and Sharita Chandler of Port St. Lucie, Florida. I don't know all their connections. This is a wild web right there. Those are disparate locations. Allegedly conspired together to submit false individual and trust tax returns that claimed millions in refunds to which they were not entitled. The indictment further, we're not entitled. To induce the IRS to accept their refund claims, the defendants and others allegedly sent more than 100 fictitious financial instruments, such as checks, money orders, or payment vouchers, totaling an approximate $57 million to the IRS to make it appear that they had paid taxes that could be refunded. The indictment further alleges that Andrea and Kent Shannon used a portion of the false refunds they received to purchase, among other things, a $90,000 Cadillac Escalade. Get this one. I was like, how do you even do this? And a $144,000 GMC Sierra 3500. Now, I know you can make a dually truck quite expensive, but $150,000. I mean, you're checking every add to cart box possible on a truck to make it that expensive. I mean, I know trucks get really expensive, but usually on the prosumer consumer grade, there's a rift between like how much a consumer can pay before you're adding stuff to it for a specific profession or a very specific kind of use for that truck. $144,000 on a truck. And here's what's wild. My wife the other day, she's like, I got to take the kids to the skating rink. There's a skate party. And I'm like, cool. Do you want to go? And I'm like, super don't. So I stayed home. She comes home. She's like, guess who I saw? Andrea and Kent Shannon. I was like, wait, they're out? So this is like super white collar. It's super white. So you're out on the things that go through my head are, I'm like, you make $1 million that you shouldn't have off if I got a check for $8,000 from the IRS, I'd be like, is this a mistake? Should I cash this? Once you hit like $1 million, I would probably be like, yeah, okay, I'm out. Okay. Yeah. Good enough. Bye. $54 million. Okay, so then the question is, you get charged with this, you get indicted, right, by the IRS or who this is the justice.gov. That's where this is, just in case I'm spilling the tea. This is everywhere. You can find this anywhere. This was back in September 2025. And instantly, I'm like thinking, okay, so if they're out, that means that they posted bail. Did they use the money that they had from this? Because the bail amount had to have been, I would assume, quite high, right? So they posted bail somehow. If not for the IRS stuff, all I know is I'm not quite sure they could afford bail based on just my observation. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly for everything. And then on top of that, I'm like, who pays for your attorney? Like, can you use the money to pay for a high profile attorney, knowing that money might be taken away? Like, did they lock up the money? How much of it, like some of it was spent. We see it right here, like they spent a couple $100,000 on 2 vehicles. They're looking at 20 years in prison for the conspiracy charge. And get this, an additional maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each wire fraud charge, and a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for each false claim charge. And Kent Shannon faces a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison for the money laundering charge. I was just like, hey, wait, those are my neighbors.
There was someone I knew in college, went to church together, and she had a party. She had like some physical issues, like, and some random dude that she knew was like super wealthy, and he kind of like took her under his wing and like paid for some surgeries to help her out and stuff. And so one time this dude, he was one of those dudes that has like 8 houses like all over the world.
Yeah.
And one of them happened to be in southern Utah, and this was like a $3+ million home. And he's like, yeah, you can have your birthday party here. So like everyone who like went to church with them, like with her, she just invited everyone. So we went to this like super nice gated community. We're at this like massive house. They have like this ginormous pool, and we're having a party. And then the dude just shows up. Like he's just like, he wasn't supposed to be in town, but he's just like, yeah, I'm here. Like, hey, happy birthday. And I was just like talking, and he's talking about his neighbor. The house next door was for sale, and he's like telling everyone why it's for sale. It had been for sale, and then these people bought it, and he's like, yeah, and then they had like 4 or 5 like they were buying Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and they had like 2 different boats. They had a surf boat, like a wake surfing boat, and then one that was set up, just for pulling, wakeboarding, and they bought like a brand new RV and had it parked out there, and they're just buying stuff left and right. And he's like, yeah, the problem is that, 2 years prior to that, they had been living in a trailer park.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you go from living in a trailer park and then 2 years later you pay cash for a $3 million home, and you pay cash for Ferraris and Lamborghinis? Well, this was during when spice was a big thing and it had just become illegal.
Oh, yeah. So
they were one of the biggest runners of spice in the country at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, guess what? You can't just buy things with cash and expect the IRS not to go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And then not having any sort of like, that's why people launder money. Like they forgot the whole laundering the money part through like a legitimate business or even a fake business. No, they were just taking the cash from drug sales and buying stuff with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like you can't just go from making, being on welfare to, all of a sudden you have $10 million in stuff in 2 years, and then people go, how did you do it? Like, did you invent something? Did you sell something? Like, did you like maybe write a hit TV show? No. What'd you do? I nothing. I just found it, I guess.
Yeah. I went from being terrible with money, which relegated me to a trailer park, to having a ton.
Yeah.
Just cause. Yeah. One time an IRS agent showed up to my business. I had a marketing agent. One of my first, I had a web development business that got acquired by a marketing agency. And so I was part of that marketing agency. Our IRS agent showed up. Hi, we need to get a copy of your books. And the thing is, people don't realize, is it's kind of like when a cop pulls you over, that is not the court. That's not the time to try to win. Like, let it roll. Just let the process play out. You may be right, but the lights turned on, and now you're committed to a new routine for a little while. Let it play out. Mm-hmm. IRS is very similar. You can get dodgy, and you can be like, well, thanks for showing up. All communication, further communication should happen through our attorney. You could do that, sure. But being honest and being straightforward is a really great way to go, especially with the IRS, because especially local IRS, state IRS. It's a nightmare. Those people I think they have terrible jobs, which makes them terrible to work with. But anyway.
It's also, remember, with IRS, it's not all or nothing. Like, it's not like if you make a mistake, they say everything's wrong. They'll just say, oh no, explain this line, and you go, okay, here's my explanation, and they go, nah, and so then you have to pay taxes on that thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not all of it. Like,
There's
you literally
never-
just have to go line by line and then explain why you wrote it off, and they go, okay or not okay, each line item.
The crazy thing about the IRS is they are the only governmental department that lives or dies by their rules. Now, I'm not saying that the rules aren't shirked, that the IRS hasn't been influenced to do nefarious things. That's happened.
Yeah.
But when it comes to you and I, the IRS is probably one of the only government organizations where when they say line 14A, and you come back with, well, line 14A is this, they're like, rule is in place, rule does A, or rule does B. It is amazing how rules oriented not only the people are oftentimes, there's not a lot of quibbling with the IRS. It's either black or white, and it's down, like you said, down to the line item. Anyway, this agent shows up to our place and he's like, I'm going to need a copy of your books and I'm going to need a room. We were like, okay, how long are you going to, I mean, we close at 5. He's like, yeah, I'll start working and we'll let you know. And we're like, okay. So give him a copy of the books. I think he asked for like the last 4 years or something like that. So we gave it to him. Oddly enough, our bookkeeper at the time wasn't there that day. We had to like get on her computer and pull it all and give it to him and find him a room and everything. Fortunately, it was like end of the day, around 3 p.m. He comes out, he's like, okay, we're done. And we're like, okay, but like, we're all crapping brick over here. What's going on?
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything? And they're like, well, this is part of an investigation into so-and-so. It's our bookkeeper. And they were doing an investigation in her. And they were like, they gave us a printout of all the things that they identified where this gal had actually used the money from our business for her own personal stuff, like bought tires and all this stuff.
And was writing it off as
was writing it off. And they were like, this is weird. And they tied it back to the business because they're like, they follow the money. They're like, where's the money coming from to pay for all this? Oh, it's this business. What's up? And so we were cleared almost instantaneously of any, obviously any wrongdoing or anything. That lady didn't. No, we fired her.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened to her. But
it's also important to remember that, and I've been told this 100 times, the IRS doesn't go after small fish either. They don't have time for that.
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is always, I get so annoyed by people who say like billionaires don't pay their fair share and everything like that. I think Trump said it best during a presidential, one of those debates. The question was put to him, did you use the tax code for your advantage? Like they're trying to set him up, right?
He's like,
like
hell
they
yeah,
need that headline. Trump admits to using the tax code to his advantage. He just goes, oh, yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. And then he points to Hillary and he's like, and so did all of her donors.
Yeah.
And so did the thing is, it's not like, again, the IRS is rules based. It's we are all dumb and unaware of basically what we're dumb and unaware of is all the ways in which a good lawyer and someone with money can identify the tax code and how to leverage the tax code. Yeah. They're not paying money. They're not paying money. What they're doing is they're leveraging the way the tax code is written. So, for example, where you and I might have a $700 bill on our hands, they go, oh, well, I don't want to pay that $700. What can we do? And their lawyer goes, well, you have a fleet of old cars. Why don't we donate 4 of those cars to a local nonprofit? They give you a receipt for your donation, and that $700, you don't have to pay it anymore.
Yeah.
So to somebody else, the math on that could be like, oh, well, they're dodging tax payment. And I'm like, well, they got rid of an asset They got rid of 4 cars, and it went to a nonprofit where that nonprofit is going to do whatever they're going to do. And if they're above board, 4 people are going to get cars.
Yeah.
So like, it's so funny because they, like, a lot of people think they're just not paying their fair share. And a lot of people say this while they're working for a billionaire.
Yeah.
Like down the line, they're working for a billionaire and they're like, well, he's not paying his fair share. And we're like, I'll bet you money you're not.
Well, it's like, I worked at a place, and at the end of every year, you'd get a Christmas bonus. Guess what that bonus was? It was the employer trying to get into a different tax bracket.
Yeah.
And they write it off as they paid you money. That's a write-off. Anytime that's an expense. So they're literally giving us money,
right,
to save themselves more money from taxes. So so it's like, I won. Like, I got money. Like, I got extra money I wasn't planning on.
Right.
And the amount was just based on, how they're trying to adjust their taxes and pay less taxes. So it's like, you can actually be the beneficiary of someone, quote unquote, dodging taxes. Like, I got a Christmas bonus every year so that my boss could, quote unquote, dodge taxes. Like, somebody's getting something. Like, that's the thing. Their employees benefited.
Now, there are a lot of ways in which criminals are. So I get tired of people saying billionaires don't pay their fair share. You're not going to change that. I'm not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that's a misnomer. What I do know happens is tax dollars are illegally funneled into nefarious schemes, which we don't seem to care too much about. Like, for example, in California, tax dollars are given to a developer who then goes and puts a high-rise up, which is homeless shelters. 70 homeless shelters costs $12.5 billion, and we're all okay with it because it's a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. But it's $12.5 billion for 70 like apartments in a high-rise. And we're like, I don't see anything going on here. It's like, so there's a lot that happens that we're like, that there are a lot of people. There's a guy on Twitter named James Lee, L.I.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I just want to point out, though, that the Burj Khalifa cost $1.5 billion to build. It's the tallest building in the world. So what happens when you spend $12.5 billion on 70 homeless apartments when you can go build the Burj? You can build 10 of the Burj Khalifas for that price. Like, that's where you go, where's that money actually going? Because it's not going into construction costs.
And the funny thing is, a lot of the money that you can trace in those is right there for the tracing. It's just somebody has to do it. So James Lee is this guy, James Lee, on Twitter, and he digs into these things, and he's dug into a lot of those. He's dug into a lot of development projects that on the surface look shiny and, like, oh, good, we're helping the homeless. But we're not. Yeah. And, so I'm not saying there isn't stuff that happens amongst millionaires and billionaires that shouldn't. I'm just saying we don't even know the plot, or we've got the wrong script most of the time. It's not as simple as
fake nursing homes in California that didn't exist, and there's like $50 billion going to that.
The one building that had 240, I think was the number, 240 home health businesses in
one building.
In one building. Yeah, no. My town that has 47 childcare centers? No. It's everywhere. So
each child gets their own building and own staff, Sam. That's how they pay for that.
Children are watching other children's children. All right, let me give you one more from This Is True, and then we'll move on. Face the Music, Part 2.
Ooh.
Florida, too, is deploying automated systems to look for guns in schools.
They would have found a ton at my school.
Yeah. There's a parenthetical here. See, all that and a bag of chips, which is another story from another This Is True, where a Maryland school's AI reported a Doritos bag as a gun. I think I mentioned that one.
Yeah.
This time, Lawton Childs Middle School in Oviedo went to Code Red when its automated weapons detection system detected, quote unquote, detected a student carrying a clarinet. The school's principal, Dr. Melissa Laudani, blamed the student for holding a musical instrument as if it were a weapon. When someone is first learning to play a clarinet, can be a weapon. That, like, if you're a boy and you were in my band and you played any instrument, we all figured out a way to aim it so it looked like a weapon. I had saxophone rifles. You know, my friend had a tuba bazooka. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. That's hilarious. Anyway.
I remember we were sitting in class one time. My teacher's like, I need a pocket knife to cut. Like, she had to cut something. Like, she had like a thread and she didn't have scissors. It was like, I don't know why teacher doesn't have scissors, but she's like, I need to cut something. I need a knife. And so she's like, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm just going to, when I open my eyes, I want there to be a knife on my desk. I'm going to use it real quick and then I'm going to close my eyes and the owner can come get it again. As soon as she closes her eyes, like literally nine dudes all stand up at the same time, reaching for their pocket, me included. And then we're just like, oh yeah, you do it. And then so they just put their knife there and she opened her eyes, used it real quick, and then closed it, and he went and got his knife. But yeah, it was funny watching like almost every boy in class stand up at the same time to go put his knife on the desk.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's the high school I went to. Like, we would be there, and the teachers would be like, hey, Steven, you need to take your rifle and your shotgun out of the rack in your truck.
Yeah.
Like,
and the truck's unlocked.
Yeah, put it under your seat next time.
Yeah.
Like, not don't do that again. It's put it under your seat next time.
Yep.
Like,
there was a gun buyback program in Oregon where, and it happened a couple of years ago, and a woman shows up to the city council meeting. I was like, we had a gun buyback program, and apparently we made several million on it. The city announced, where's that money? And like, no one had an answer. She's like, so can I come back? I'm going to follow up on that. Can I follow up on that? Like, it was weird. It was weird.
My favorite is when they do gun buybacks and people go to Home Depot and online you can make, what are they called, like the slap guns with the shotgun shells, and it's like two pipes, and so people are literally getting like the $300 vouchers for like $8 worth of piping at Home Depot, and they'll show up with like 8 of them.
Yep. It's weird. All right. Chase. Hey, Chase.
Yes.
What did you bring today?
Well, get ready to break out the tissues because I brought some tearjerkers today in a good way. Well, one of them's not in a good way, but it has a good kind of a good ending, and the other one's a really good ending.
All right.
So, have you ever heard of the 1917 Halifax explosion?
Yes. I believe it's considered the largest explosion. I don't want to give away your thing.
No, that's fine. It's the largest non-nuclear explosion in the history of the world.
Yeah,
man-made.
In the history of the world.
Yep. So
man-made though, right? I mean,
man-made.
There's some clarifications because like
the Tunguska event.
Yeah, the explosion.
That nobody knows about.
You got Bora Bora. You've got other things.
Volcanoes blowing up.
Right.
So largest man-made. That's non-nuclear.
Right.
So there's a guy named Vincent Coleman. That's kind of who our main character is. He's a railway dispatcher in Halifax, Nova Scotia, that would later become the birthplace of the donair. And if you've never had a donair, you need to go to Halifax and go to the King of Donair and get a donair. It's basically a Canadian version of a gyro sandwich, like a Greek gyro.
Oh, okay.
Or gyro if you want to do that. If you're ever in Halifax, go get a donair. It's delicious. So, December 6th, 1917, long before the donair was ever even a thought in someone's head. It was a normal day, except for the fact that there was a French munition ship called the Mont Blanc. It was basically a floating bomb just sitting in the harbor in Halifax. It had 2,653 tons of explosives, benzol, and picric acid. So this thing, when you do the math, it had a blast yield of approximately 2.9 to 3.0 kilotons, making it the largest man-made non-nuclear explosion in history. Basically, imagine a Costco full to the brim with fireworks and gasoline. The whole building.
Wow.
So we're talking, so what happens if something like that blows up? Total vaporization of everything within a half mile. Like, we're literally pulling atoms away from each other to turning things to dust.
Wow.
The thermal radiation, this is the heat, would cause spontaneous combustion of dry materials and third-degree burns on people 1.5 miles away. You're standing 1.5 miles away, you will get a burn just from the air cooking you.
Wow.
Pressure wave, 1,000 feet per second, breaking windows and blinding people, like it's popping your eyes, up to 10 miles away from the pressure. That's a gigantic bomb. Like, gigantic. So now Coleman, he sees this ship in the harbor where he works. It's on fire. And he knows what's on that thing. He knows that it's full of explosives. And the ship is drifting towards where he's sitting. Most people would probably run away or try to run, maybe call their mom, I don't know. But Coleman sits down at his telegraph and types out the most Canadian message in history. Munitions ship on fire in the harbor, making for Pier 6. Goodbye. Like, he just taps out on his little telegraph machine, goodbye, like he's sending a work email. 9:04 a.m., boom, ship blows up. Deletes half of Halifax. Half the city's gone. 1,782 people approximately died instantly. 9,000 more were injured, and for miles, buildings were turned to rubble. But Coleman's message is already gone. Like, it's already running down the telegraph wires. The Intercolonial Railway gets this death telegram and basically turns into the world's most efficient disaster response team. So within hours, they have 6 different relief trains rolling from Truro, Kentville, Amherst, New Glasgow, and Moncton. These trains are loaded with firefighters, doctors, nurses, medical supplies, and wrecking crews. So within 6 hours, basically it was all hands on deck. Everyone just grabbed their crap, went to the train station. They loaded it with as much stuff as they could pull together, and the train started going. From that very short telegraph, right? So Halifax is still on fire, and people are digging their neighbors out of the rubble. But wait, it gets better.
Ooh.
Down in Boston, Governor McCall gets word about the Halifax at around 11 a.m., just 2 hours after the explosion, and that's pretty impressive in 1917. No internet, no cell phones, just telegraph wires, and people who took their jobs seriously. So he telegrams Halifax's mayor offering unlimited assistance. That is his quote. Whatever you need, we will send it. Don't even hesitate to ask. It's like your neighbor texting you after your house burns down and saying, hey, need anything? I have an American Express black card. It's yours now.
Yeah. Ready to go.
So the Massachusetts relief train leaves Boston at 10 p.m. that same day, which means Boston organized an entire relief mission in about 11 hours, which is, took them twice as long as the Canadians, but hey, they did it. So this train is also packed with doctors, nurses, medical supplies like the other trains, as well as materials to build temporary shelters. That's probably why it took them longer. And it's heading north through what's about to become one of the worst blizzards in maritime history. Fun. And here's where it gets even crazier. The Christian Science Board of Directors in Boston, and these aren't like crazy cult people. These are just like a bunch of different, churches. They have a group where they help people, right?
Right.
And they talk about church stuff and science and stuff. They organize their own relief train, and they send that too. So you have multiple American relief trains racing through a blizzard to help Canadians they've never met, all because a railway dispatcher named Coleman had time to send one telegram before dying in the biggest explosion anyone had ever seen. Because this is before the A-bombs. So Massachusetts hits snowdrifts so deep that the people on the train had to literally get out and shovel the snow away multiple times. So, like, you're on a mercy mission through a blizzard, and every few miles you have to get out and shovel out the train. They keep going, despite Mother Nature trying her best to be an asshole and stop them, and the first American relief train rolls into Halifax on December 8th, 2 days after the explosion. Meanwhile, the 6 local relief trains that left on December 6th arrive before the blizzard hit, which saved thousands of lives. So within 1 week, the Halifax harbor is operational again so that they can receive more relief supplies. Like, this is the harbor that was wiped off the map. More trains are showing up and supplies are reaching cleared areas. The entire maritime railway systems collectively said, well, this happened, let's fix it. And then they actually went and fixed it. The whole thing was so remarkable, especially they were so grateful for like the Americans sending stuff, that Nova Scotia still sends Boston a Christmas tree every year. They started in 1971. They've sent a Christmas tree every year to say thank you for that thing that happened over 100 years ago. Huh. And it was just because one railway dispatcher had 30 seconds to live and decided to spend that time saving people's lives. Okay. I'm going to get emotional. I have another story, if that one wasn't tearjerker enough. So, have you ever heard of James Christopher Harrison? He's an Australian.
No.
So this story is gonna make me cry. So on December 27th, 1936, James is born into this world. That means he lived through World War II as a kid, probably ate a lot of Vegemite, and somehow ended up becoming literally the most important person you've never heard of. I'm not being dramatic here. They credit this man with eventually saving over 2.4 million babies' lives. Like million. 2.4 million people. And he's not saving them from student death or from getting hit by a bus. He actually saved their lives with his arm. So we have some backstory, because that sounds really weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it all started when James was 14 years old, 1951. He needed chest surgery. Back then, chest surgery wasn't like today, where they've got little robot assistants and all sorts of surgery was not what it is today. They don't do microsurgeries, like they cracked you wide open. So, like, they probably, since it's 1951, they're probably using tools that doubled as farm equipment. So during his open chest surgery, James needed blood transfusions to survive, like you do, and ended up needing multiple units. So that means somebody, most likely multiple somebodies, had previously donated their blood to keep this 14-year-old kid alive. Now, most teenagers who get life-saving blood transfusions probably think, well, that was terrifying. I'm never going to the hospital again. But James thought, I should probably pay this forward. So he decided to be a blood donor himself, but you can't as a kid, so he had to wait till he was 18. But there was also a problem. James Harrison was afraid of needles. And not just like he didn't like them. He literally had a phobia of needles. So an irrational fear, right? There's no way of getting, like, he can't just think himself out of it. Like, it's like, I don't know why I'm terrified, but I have this response my body's doing. So it's important because James would donate his blood 1,173 times during his life.
How many?
1,173 donations.
But he's scared of needles.
But he's terrified of needles. When he started, he was just a kid who's basically volunteering for his own personal horror movie every few weeks for the next 6 decades. 1954, when James turned 18, like I said, he was finally of legal age, and he walked into a blood donation center. He had his whole life ahead of him at the time. He could become a surfer, maybe learn to wrestle crocodiles, like Crocodile Dundee and Steve Irwin. Mm-hmm. And maybe he even thought about getting an STD from holding a koala, because that's normal Australian things. But instead, he decided to start getting stuck with needles that he hates on a regular basis because strangers saved his life when he was only 14 years old. So remember, this is 1954. There's no such thing as a butterfly needle. They had those big old monster needles.
Soup needle.
Yeah. And so this kid is just sitting there terrified, but he's like, I'm going to do this because somebody did it for me. So he starts donating blood on the regular. And then the doctors, they check your blood after they pull it out, make sure everything's good before they put it into someone else. So at least these ones did.
Yeah. And
they're looking, and they're like, what is, his blood's different. And he had really powerful antibodies, specifically one called anti-D. That's what it's called. It's an anti-D antibody. I don't want to get too sciencey here, but basically James's blood had developed the super specific ability to prevent a condition called rhesus disease. Have you heard of rhesus disease?
I've heard of rhesus monkeys.
So Rhesus disease was killing and severely injuring thousands of babies every year in Australia.
Oh, wow.
There's so a little bit of the backstory. Everyone has blood, and not everyone's blood has an Rh factor. Some people's don't. That's a problem. When a woman who doesn't have it gets pregnant with a baby who does have an Rh factor, her body goes, "You're not supposed to be here." It treats it as a literal sickness, right? And because it's like, your blood's different than my blood, and it's in my body. I need to fight you. So what happens is it's hemolytic disease of the newborn. Before James Harrison's arm, it was causing stillbirths, brain damage, and death in babies all over the world. But James's blood, specifically his plasma, could be turned into something called anti-D immunoglobulin.
Wow.
Immunoglobulin, that's the word.
Okay.
I can't read. Which is basically a shot you give to Rh negative mothers that tells their immune system, hey, chill out, don't attack the baby. You're good.
Wow.
So James's blood was so potent at producing this stuff that they realized one guy with a needle phobia might be able to solve a global health crisis. I'm going to get emotional. So in 1969, James becomes a founding donor of New South Wales RH program, one of the world's first organized efforts to use anti-D immunoglobulin to prevent Rhesus disease. James is now 33 years old and has been getting stuck with needles for 15 years. Despite being terrified of them, he never gets over his phobia and agrees to continue to donate plasma every 2 weeks for 49 years.
Jeez.
So like that's a big commitment. Every 2 weeks, James Harrison had to psych himself up to do the thing he was most afraid of in the world, 26 times a year for 49 years, 1,274 separate occasions where he had to talk himself into facing his largest fear, and he only missed 101 of those appointments in 5 decades. So his actual total was 1,173 donations, saving literally millions of lives.
Oh, wow.
Dude's a baller.
That's crazy.
They say that his art, they call him the man with the golden arm. So if you want to learn a little bit more, it's James Harrison, the man with the golden arm.
I wonder how many people have that, you know?
Yeah. And so like he even started his own foundation where they find people who have it, and those people, go in, and that's what they're literally there for one purpose. They're donating plasma so that they can pull those antibodies out and use and give them to people.
It's always amazing to me how there's, like for example, if you're going in to get like your thyroid checked or testosterone levels, that kind of stuff, they run a test and the test comes back and it shows T levels, T1, 2, 3, 4, something, There's multiple T levels though. Mm-hmm. And they can run tests that are more rigorous and identify more stuff. I've always been amazed that, like, I don't know, I'm probably oversimplifying it, but it's kind of like antivirus software. It's like, run a scan, it runs for 2.5 minutes, and it's a cursory scan. It only scans the most critical, core pieces and ignores a bunch of other stuff. There's also a scan, that I could run that would take a day, but much more rigorous. It's always amazed me that, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify, because I know people's time equals money, but I'm always curious for certain things where it's like, you hear it all the time. You're like, well, our general practitioner did some tests, nothing. Sent it to a specialist did some tests, nothing. It wasn't until I went and spent a week at the Mayo Clinic where they ran other tests and found stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, we talk about a lot of things that should be rights, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I don't want to, again, I realize time is money and people have to be a factor in all that. I'm just like, is there a way to get, like, that seems like a noble reason to run AI on a big scale, would be like, wouldn't it be comforting to know that once a year you go and you give them your blood, maybe they take a couple other fluids from you, and over the next month and a half, I'd be cool with that. Over the next month and a half, a series of rigorous tests will be run to inform me of the things and stuff that's going on. Like one thing, as I drop vitamin B3 drops in my mouth in the morning, I'm like, I don't know if there's really a way for me to know whether or not this is moving the needle. And then as I take another couple magnesium pills and, Alpha Brain from On It, and, as I'm just downing stuff that is maybe the latest trend in, well, everybody's deficient in magnesium, so you should be getting your magnesium. How do I test to see, am I good? Like, where's the test that says, now you're good now. You're good. Just keep it up. Or, okay, we did the test, your thyroid's dead. You have Hashimoto's disease, which I have. And they're like, so you're going to be on a thyroid replacement medicine for literally the rest of your life. You got to take this daily for the rest of your life. I'm like, cool, but you stopped at T4. There's more T's, right? Well, yeah, but, this is, case closed.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like those are the things where recently Trump announced this new fund where parents can sign their kid up, and it's an investment fund for children. Pretty cool. And you can contribute to the fund. And again, I think that's cool. I think that seems like a worthwhile use of governmental resources, is to babysit some financial funds for the benefit of its people. I think that's okay.
Like, if you do it right, like you can pay for your kids' college pretty much wherever they want to go. Like, it's Or you want to talk about free college tuition, like, it doesn't just mean, oh, you don't get a bill from the college. It can literally look like, oh, here's this government program that we're going to let you invest in the stock market, and it's going to be monitored by people who know what they're doing. And over 20 years, they're going to have enough money to go to college. There's your free college. But then, it's Trump, and it's not a $0 bill that they're getting in the mail, so it's the stupidest thing, or he's not doing anything. It's just like, no, like, there's a way to get free college without, having a $0 bill from the college.
Well, like with anything, it'll be corrupted. There'll be people that'll abuse it. I mean, but I start thinking about things where I'm like, if I had the government do some stuff on autopilot for me to benefit me, what would that be? This kind of thing. Like, every U.S. citizen gets a scan that tells them. But then the flip side, it's like, then the government knows everything that's wrong with you, and Big Pharma's there to gob the data and be like, oh, we had no idea there were this many people with T13 deficiency. We'll make a medicine. We'll make a killing off this. So I see the flip side to it too. But I'm always curious, like you wonder, on this guy that you just shared the story on, was there anybody there to say, okay, we take in a ton of blood from a ton of people. Can we run something on a sample that tells us who this is? We're the warehouser of all the blood.
Yeah.
We could be doing this. Or did he find out through his nonprofit? No, they won't do that, so we do it.
Yeah.
And no, we can't just go in and ask for samples. We have to get them this way. There's always, you build a bigger mouse trap. There's a bigger mouse that gets evolved. Yep. So I get it. It's all noisy, but it's one of my dream things, I guess. Like, if I were a billionaire, I would start somewhere there where it's like autopilot kind of health scan kind of stuff. Firewalls against Big Pharma getting access to data, Actually, what I would, if I was a billionaire, have I told you about that book where they ran a study? They gave the same amount of money, and they ran several scenarios on how to solve the world's problems.
Oh yeah,
with the money. And all of the analysis came back to the fastest way to solve world problems is to solve nutrition in children. Not necessarily hunger. It was kind of specific. It wasn't hunger, but nutrition. I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah. And then you see the price tag to do it, and it was actually manageable and relatively cheap.
There's so many things like that are...
I think we did talk about this because we then talked about how, like, in Africa, you have the gangs who are literally hijacking the supplies, so they're never getting to the people.
take all the money. Right.
And so like people are trying to fix it, but then there's always the other people who are breaking it down for their own gain.
If you see photos of a kid from Africa that you're going to be sending money to, the village is actually like almost a staged village where there are people that are making money that bring them in. They're like, okay, don't change your shirt, put the holy one on.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
South Park does a whole thing about that.
Do they?
Where the money and the food you're sending isn't actually getting to the villages.
Yeah, and it's not. It's sad, but it's not. Yeah. No, and it's funny, like people do analysis, and it takes somebody like Elon Musk is sitting in an interview a little while ago, and the reporter is like, the lack of fresh water, blah blah blah, and going off saying lack of fresh water as if it's a fact, and he cuts her off. He's like, "No, access to fresh water is not a problem." And she's like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "No, it's not a problem. It's actually very low cost to create fresh water, even from salinic water, like ocean water." He's like, it's very low cost. It's just we don't do it.
When I was living in Africa, doing the whole Mormon missionary thing, there was a senior couple, right? They're retired. That was their whole thing. They were just putting in freshwater wells. Yeah. They were going, finding the sites, paying the money, literally, watching, make sure that the wells were drilled and they make sure they were functioning. And they were, the pump systems were very user friendly. Like they designed them specifically to where maintenance was dirt cheap. You could fix it with parts you find laying around from other things. And that was their whole thing. And that's not just the Mormon church doing that. A lot of people do that. I think you'd be surprised how many people have access to fresh water now that didn't before, because it's not that hard and it's not that expensive to do, like you said.
If you look up, and this has happened for ages, like centuries, this has happened. To control a people, you control fresh water, right? And so there were actually kings in medieval times where they would make it their mission to dig fresh wells. And that's one of the ways that they would ingratiate themselves to a people. They dig fresh wells, and, their people, then wherever there's fresh wells, people congregate. And so you have villages grow and everything like that. If you wanted to conquer the king, you would have your people go and fill in the wells. So as quickly as we're digging wells in some places in the world, there are people going, no, this is an illegal well. And they fill it in with concrete. People are great and people suck. Anyway.
It's like that Tim Robinson meme. How can I make money off of this? like there's always that dude. How can I make money off of this?
Yeah. All right. I brought something kind of interesting. Hey, Sam, what did you bring? Oh, what'd you bring? I'm just going to jump right into this.
Do it.
It began, as these things often do, with paperwork.
I thought you were going to say in a brothel.
Yeah. Paperwork in a brothel.
Okay.
Not in the dramatic kind of way, not the kind signed in a courtroom with television cameras humming. No, this was the quieter sort, the sort filled out in fluorescent lights between sighs in a room where the clock ticks just a little too loudly. Kind of like when that tax agent was in my business for too long. It's awkward. Christopher Todd Eric was 23, old enough to rent a car, old enough to vote, old enough to make mistakes with real-world consequences, and young enough that his mother still expected to hear from him at odd hours. Christopher lived in Arizona then, a state where the desert doesn't whisper so much as it hums, and I've been there, and you've been there, and you know this, that there's a weird, deafening quiet that is also ultra loud all at the same time. Where the summer heat presses down like a physical hand. By most accounts, Christopher's life did not announce itself as extraordinary. He was one of those young men balancing adulthood and uncertainty. Jobs here, friendships there. a search for footing that hadn't quite settled into place yet. His mother, Kim Smith, lived states away, but remained what mothers tend to remain, the point of gravity, the one listed on his forms, the one whose phone number you scribble when someone says emergency contact.
Mm-hmm.
Kim's number was written down more than once on intake forms, on digital records, on the sort of systems designed to make sure no one slips through the cracks. And yet, systems are not immune to small human errors. In fact, they're kind of built on them.
Mm-hmm.
One afternoon in Arizona, Christopher found himself in the middle of what authorities would later call a mental health episode. The language sounds clinical when you read it later. It sounds tidier when it feels in the moment. First responders arrived, reports were filed, procedures followed. Somewhere in the shuffle of forms and identifiers and database fields, a designation was entered, a checkbox, a drop-down menu, a classification, unclaimed. It is a sterile word, almost administrative in tone. It does not conjure images of a mother waiting by a phone. It does not suggest birthdays remembered or childhood photographs still stored in drawers. It simply means no one to notify. That designation quietly redirected the rest of Christopher's path. Kim, meanwhile, continued living her life. She tried calling him from time to time. She assumed he was just busy, distracted, maybe working odd hours. 23-year-olds do that. They vanish for stretches and resurface later with stories. Weeks, though, turned into months, and months into longer silences. Concern started to creep in, but it never crystallized into certainty. After all, there'd been no call, no official notice, no message from authorities. Because in the system, Christopher had no one. The bureaucratic machinery that handles unidentified or unclaimed individuals is vast and largely invisible to the public. Counties contract with facilities and hospitals, log transfers. Universities sometimes receive materials for teaching. Private organizations work with specimens for research or exhibition. The process all moves quietly. It's guided by statutes written decades ago and updated piecemeal, interpreted locally. Most people never think about it. Years later, Kim was in her living room when she saw something on television that made her sit forward. It wasn't breaking news. It wasn't even local. It was a feature segment, the kind that fills a slow news day. The camera panned through a traveling exhibit called Real Bodies. One of those anatomical displays that promises to reveal the intricacies of the human form. The narrator spoke in a reverent tone about science and education and preservation. Kim watched absent-mindedly at first until the camera stopped. There's a moment in certain stories when time seems to stall, when recognition doesn't come all at once but arrives in fragments, kind of a profile or a scar, the set of a jaw, something about the posture. Kim leaned closer to the screen, and then she stood. Then she whispered his name. What followed was not cinematic, it was procedural. Phone calls, emails, requests for confirmation, a labyrinth of departments, records offices, exhibit coordinators, and legal representatives. Each step revealed another document, another chain of custody, another transfer that had occurred without her knowledge. The truth assembled itself slowly, piece by piece, like a photograph developing in chemical solution. Christopher had not been lost. He'd been cataloged, processed, preserved, and displayed. Kim learned that once a person is classified as unclaimed, laws in certain jurisdictions allow their remains to be transferred for scientific or educational purposes. Consent requirements vary. Notification protocols differ locally, regionally. Oversight can be minimal The system assumes that if no one steps forward, there is no one to consult. But someone had stepped forward years earlier. Her name had been on the form. The error that erased her had been small, a clerical misentry, a failure to link records, one keystroke separating a son from his mother in the eyes of the system. Kim began asking questions, not the emotional ones, though there were plenty of those, but the legal ones. How was this permitted? What safeguards existed? How many others have been categorized the same way? Who verified next of kin? Who bore responsibility for checking? The answers were unsatisfying. They often were when bureaucracy meets grief. So Kim did what determined people tend to do when the system fails them. She decided to force the system to change. She filed legal action seeking custody. She pushed for legislative review. She spoke publicly about notification standards and consent protocols and record verification procedures. Advocacy groups took notice. Lawmakers requested briefings. Journalists began digging into similar cases across multiple states. What had begun as a quiet administrative oversight was now sparking a broader examination of how institutions treat those who fall into the category labeled unclaimed. Kim's fight isn't framed as opposition to science. She said repeatedly that research and education matter, but she insists that family matters too, that identity does not end at paperwork, that dignity is not a line item in a database. Her goal is simple, she says, to bring Christopher home, to ensure no other family is separated by a clerical mistake, to make sure that every name on every emergency contact form is treated as if it belongs to someone who will answer the phone. Because somewhere between the moment Christopher's information was entered into a computer and the moment his mother saw him again, the system forgot a fundamental truth. No one is truly unclaimed if someone is still looking for him.
Whew. This reminded me of when I went to a bodies exhibit. I didn't want to be there, but my wife made me go.
They are beautiful and unsettling, all in the same breath.
They do the body, like when they turn them into a giant slide show, where they literally just put you on a bandsaw and cut out 1/4 inch, like you're frozen, and then they put you on a bandsaw and cut a 1/4 inch slice and encase it, and then a 1/4 inch slice and encase it.
Yeah.
The worst one I said at the back door was an example of dick cancer. Like, I walked funny for like 15 minutes after seeing that.
Oof.
Like, I was just like, I don't want to know. It's like sometimes not knowing is just better sometimes.
Yeah. Let me share a screen of what she saw. Here.
Because, there's all different ways that they present depending on what it is. Like, there's people that have been literally stripped down to their nerves, like where it's just bundles of nerves. This
is what she saw. If you're squeamish at all, it's scientific. It's not bloody or anything like that, but this is what they showed on the news as far as not with his face down there in the corner, but somehow from that exhibit, she saw her son. Now, the exhibit at one point has the cameraman panning sort of a dolly pan, like a rotation pan around this. So, especially on the profile of it, like the nose shape and everything, she somehow identified her son, and turned out she was right. That was her son.
Yikes, man.
Crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, the sad thing was we asked one of the people who was working at the bodies exhibit in Vegas, because they had one of those that was there for a while. Like, it wasn't traveling around as much. And we're just like, why are there so many of them? Like, why are there so many of them Chinese? And she's like, well, that's actually kind of sad, and we don't usually talk about it, but it's because there are some families in China who are so poor that if a family member dies, like literally they'll sell their body
to science.
Yeah. And so like it's literally like and she's like, in most of them, like the person who's dying like will usually say, yeah, do this because I want it, like I want this to help you. Like I want to actually, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, yeah, a lot of people in China will sell their family's body parts just because they're that desperate. You know what I mean? And so she's like, that's why. So she's like, yeah, it's a whole thing. And we're
It's
just
crazy.
like, ooh, that's kind of messed up if you think about it.
Science is a I don't know. There are a lot of stories where we benefit from a lot of things that we really don't want to know how we got there.
You think about like World War II, there were a lot of medical advancements discovered by the Nazis. And those they didn't burn them.
Corporation.
Yeah, they didn't burn those discoveries. They kept them and they used them, and they're still being, those discoveries and those things are still being used today.
Yep.
Despite the origin of them.
It's a weird world. We're glad we could bring you a couple things from today's weird world in the past today.
Put
that
some
was
thoughts
fun.
in your
I
noggin.
liked your stories.
Thank you. I liked your story.
All right. Well, we'll be back. We'll be back as we always are. Sometimes it might seem like, did they get hit by a bus? Like cumulatively? Is that why the show's not on today?
Figuratively, yes.
Yes. Typically, if we're not here, figuratively, we got hit by a bus. A proverbial bus.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll be back. And my fingers aren't even crossed behind my back on that one. So,
it's the
all
truths.
Right. Tell a friend. Tell a friend about our show. We're only one of 5 podcasts. We're not hard to find.
Yeah. Tell a friend about our show and tell someone you don't like to F off. It'll make you feel better.
Yeah, maybe. Or say a prayer. All right, everybody. Soupity soup.
Bye.
So soup, let's start the show.